Hi ho, it's B here, welcome back to the main phase. Today I'm bringing another deck profile video. This deck profile is for rewrite format, and it's a water deck profile. So it's just water monsters. We've got a few ice barriers in there, but it's mostly just generic waters. Before we get into the list, I've got a reminder that we are trying to hit 150 subscribers by the end of the year, and we've got a month to get 10 more. So if you haven't subscribed, then just click down below, it's free. And also, you can join Rewrite Format and any of the other servers that I run at my card in the description below. Without further ado, let's get into the list. Wait, wrong button. There we go. So it's 40 cards. Sometimes you can go over 40, but I think 40 is fine for this deck. And it's just, yeah. So let's just get into the card by card. Okay, so we've got Brine Gear. Brine Gear's first effect doesn't really matter, but the second effect, if it's sent to the graveyard, it gains 1,000 attack. This is searchable off of Atlantean Dragoons, and can let you beat over pretty much anything in the format when combined with Hexa Spirit. That's part of the reason why this deck is just so powerful. We've got one Electra because it's limited, one Wormwood because it's limited. Both of these are just very solid cards. Electra's actually on the watch to be getting banned at the moment, but Wormwood's just a good way to just deal with a bunch of face downs and just push the game. We got free Abyss Warrior. Abyss Warrior is sort of like the secondary way to discard cards in the deck. It can stack the top of your deck, which means that you can reuse your effects, but you do not get access to new cards. You just draw the same ones over again, which can lead to some bad situations. Still, being an 1800 or 2800 under Brine Gear is just very powerful, and being able to trigger Dragoons is obviously really good. Then we've got Dragoons. The first effect doesn't really matter on this, but the ability to, when it's sent to the graveyard by a water monster's effect, or to activate a water monster's effect specifically, which can be via Mirror Master, Cold Enchanter, or Abyss Warrior. Not Mirror Master, Revealer. It can add a Sea Serpent from deck to hand. This can be either Brine Gear, or technically Frost Spirit, or realistically also Spine Gilman. And this basically just lets you get a lot of cards into rotation while also using these effects without like minusing, or in this case with Revealer plussing. Then we've got Revealer. Revealer has three really crazy effects. So if you control another ice barrier, which she puts out, your opponent cannot tribute summon. This is just really important because she, with a Frost Spirit, she's effectively a 2200, and other than like I guess specifically Steamroid, you can't beat over that without tribute summoning. Then you can discard a card to summon an Ice Barrier Tuner from your deck, which this triggers stuff like Abyss Warrior and Brine Gear, obviously. I mean, by like Dragoons and Brine Gear, obviously. But it also summons that Hexa Spirit of the Ice Barrier, and Hexa Spirits of the Ice Barrier's effect lets you reduce your opponent's monster's attack, which makes them easier to deal with, and then that just can spiral out of control, especially if you can get two Frost Spirits. And then lastly, it's like least important effect, but if you discard, basically if you discard for itself, you can actually banish it from the graveyard instead, and that can be important if you're running low on cards in hand, but you can still summon a Hex Spirit and go on from there. We're running one Cold Enchanter because it's limited. This card's just crazy. Just being able to discard a card to then gain 300 attack effectively. It's just so powerful because you can just beat over so much stuff. And obviously it's searchable by Supreme Sea Mare, technically, and it triggers the effects of Dragoons and Brine Gear. We've got two Supreme Sea Mare and two Pyrwraith. Supreme Sea Mare mills an Aqua, and then during the end phase you contribute it to add an Aqua from graveyard to hand. You can use this to search Cold Enchanter, or if you've already used Cold Enchanter, you can mill Pyrwraith and then add back the Cold Enchanter. Pyrwraith says that if a water you control is destroyed by battle or card effects, you can revive it, and then it gains some attack. So that's not really that as important. This is just really good for like keeping board presence, and because it's 1500 or maybe even 2k after like a few turns, when it revives, it can like apply a lot of pressure. You can also tribute this for Wormwood quite often, which is quite useful. Spine Gilman's really good. It's a Sea Serpent, so it's searchable off Dragoons, and it's effectively a 1700 on field, or effectively another 2200 if you also have Hexa Spirit set up. But the fact is that just this ability is just so good for setting up a lot of pressure on the field. We've got 2 Sazank just because it's good, being able to obviously flip up, pop a monster. The can tap directly, sure, doesn't actually matter that much. 3 Hexa Spirit. This card's good. I was running it at 2 initially, but I think that just being having 3 just increases your longevity significantly. And basically, the important effect is that this, while you control Revealer or another copy of Hexa Spirit, this lowers your opponent's attack and defense by 500, which significantly hinders their ability to progress on breaking your board. Often your opponent has to choose between breaking a Hexa Spirit, which will turn off the attack nullification, or breaking, but then you can just summon another one with Mirror Master. Or if they have the ability to remove Mirror Master, then you're left with Hexa Spirit, which still is a body, which you can use for something like Tribute for Worm Warlord, for example. It's pretty awkward for your opponent a lot of the time. We're running 2 Bait Dolls back row removal. A lot of traps are good right now, like Wiretap, so this card just effectively deals with them. We're running 2 Reinforcements because all our monsters are like fairly big, so like using this on Abyss Warrior or Revealer is just quite useful for being a battle trick, obviously. We're running 3 Interdimensional. This card's insane. Just being able to target Revealer with this, and then your opponent just effectively isn't allowed to deal with it. It's just like super crazy. We've got 2 Trapole. Trapole is just like a very, very, very good card. Obviously, it's the best card in the format, arguably. Fuck Trapole with spikes. Then we've got 3 Wiretap. Wiretap's out to Trapole, and it's just a very good card. A lot of the decks in format look like this, where there's just a lot of traps, and this just being able to say no to them is just very powerful. Then we're running 2 Destruction Jammer. This just counters Trapole as well, and also there are other decks that play Destruction stuff. And then for the side deck, we're running 3 Black Brachios. This is just good for dealing with beatdown decks, which obviously this deck has quite a good time dealing with them already, but like this can just help with that. We're running 3 Drillroid against like defense position decks, which this deck does have a little bit of a trouble dealing with, and this card can just help with that. Running 3 Shock Troops. This card's particularly good in this deck because we're already main decking Revealer, but against other water decks like Gishki and Mirror Match, this card is just insane. You just basically just pop an opponent's monster and you search Revealer, which is like game winning. We've got 3 Hydro Tortoise. This card is just a water, so it does interact a little bit with some of your stuff, but more importantly, it just pops back row, which against like back row heavy decks like ninjas, this is quite good. And then we're running the 3rd Bait Doll in case we're against a trap heavy deck, and then 2 Twister against ninjas specifically because they run so many face-up spells or traps like the ninjutsu arts, and this just counters them hard. So that's the list. It's effectively just a combo deck, like so you can just use the cards to you can just use the cards to interact with each other and then get to big attack numbers and beat over effectively. So it's sort of like beat down, but not really. Before we end the video, as I said before, you can subscribe because we're trying to get 150 subscribers by the end of the year, and links are in the card. Thanks, guys. Bye.